Hey everyone, Rob from Southgate Media Group here. Before we get started with this podcast, we have a quick message. If this is your first time checking out the show, we love that you found us and we really hope you enjoy it. What we have to say is for the subscribers. If you enjoy our shows, would you please donate to help keep these going? We don't want to have to put traditional ads on these shows, but this does cost money. So we really do rely heavily on donations. To make a donation to the show, please go to our website, www.southgatemediagroup.com. Go to the page for the show, and in the upper right-hand corner is a donate button. It takes you right to PayPal, and you can donate whatever amount you want. Thanks a lot for listening, everybody. And now, on with the show.
Your host Lilith, and joining me as always is
Ricky. Yo. Yo.
It's been a rough 4th of July weekend for me because I'm a drink over here.
Well, I had a pretty mean 7-year-old's birthday party yesterday. Whew.
This is a Molly Walker special. It's the end of season 2 that we're going to be talking about, and for this particular duration, and then we're going to talk about the comic books, and we're going to talk about season 2 and what it could have been had it not been for the writer's strike and actually essentially declining viewership. Yeah. A lot of these decisions came down about that as well. So.
Yeah.
But first, let's get out all these damn tie-in graphic novels out of the way.
On my notes here, I've got 28 different labels, and that's not including the ones that have doubled up, because you've got some of the comic books who have like more than one part. So yeah, let's go.
Let's get it. We're starting off with issue 67, The Golden Goose. Now this one came like after almost a month after the season 2 quote-unquote finale.
Yeah, it's not really that much the episode. I will say episode every time I'm talking about a comic book. The episode is basically, it's just another piece of the Richard Drucker kind of puzzle. He's kind of like a character who's kind of talked about but not really seen. And this one just is essentially kind of a continuation from the last Shangri-La. And it's more about the guy who is pretending to be Richard Drucker, who was his pilot. His name's Goose, or that's what everyone calls him. And it's just Bob trying to find Richard Drucker and meeting Goose and turning his arm gold in order to make him tell him where Drucker is. And that's it. We don't really know why Bob's looking for Drucker at this point, but it kind of comes up again as I'm going to call this little arc in between the seasons, I'm going to call this little comic book season. So yeah.
It was, because there's a ton of them, because we had so much damn time. But I think that it's kind of funny that Richard Drucker is like an evolved human with basically Micah's ability. Like, Hana's kind of the same way. So I think they were like really fascinated with that power, and so that's why this power comes up again and again in the graphic novels.
Yeah, and it's always a different kind of way of using it. Like Micah was just switching stuff on and using technology the whole time, whereas Hana was always looking at things through wireless. Like if you've seen Alphas, that's how I imagine her power. As the guy with the autism, I can't remember his name.
Yeah, he was in Bones too.
Yeah, Vincent
Breakout Kings. Yeah.
Vincent Nigel Murray, or whatever his name was. Yeah, and Drucker is, well, as we go on, we see how he uses his technopathy powers. So yeah, there's no trivia apart from your side.
There's there's pictures of Bob, aka Stephen Tobolowsky.
Yeah.
That was the Easter egg for this one. I believe the writer was John O'Hara, and then we have art by the comic novel tie-in guys, Michael Godos. He's done so many of these at this point. It's kind of crazy.
Okay, let's move on to the next one then.
This one is a good one. I like this one.
Which one is it? It is The Man with Too Much Brains.
The Man with Too Much Brains?
Yeah. So
it's not good. How do you say that, Ricky? That is not good. No good English.
That is no good English. No. So this is basically about, I think it's pronounced Matt Nuremberg, and it's just how the company kind of get some of their people, and he's a socially awkward kid, and he's always feeling used by other people because of his powers. He's basically got essentially a photographic memory. Yeah, and he just wants to fit in, and all it takes is Elle telling him, "I've got a place where you can fit in," and he kind of joins. But he's also got a slight crush on her. So yeah, the trivia I've got for that is it's probably a reference to the 1983 Steve Martin comedy The Man with Two Brains.
The story was by Kerry Wagner and John O'Hara. The art was by Tom Grummett. Oh, this was the time when they were pushing Milo Ventimiglia, so I think this one is him and Kristen Bell.
Yeah, I really like the character of Matt Nuremberg, but that's because I'm going to talk about it again in my RPG. I had a guy who had similar powers. He had a photographic memory, and it kind of felt like it was a way to kind of steal kind of ideas from the graphic novels and put it into my own character. But yeah.
So like, oh no, this is all original.
Yeah, I know, right? And I was just like, yeah. Okay, so next up we have Hana and Drucker's plot discovered. So this is basically Matt is at the company and he's being a prisoner. He's in this room and he's just at like computer consoles, just searching out the database and all that kind of stuff, and he believes he's saving the world, or at least that's what Elle tells him, and he's got a crush on her, so he's going to kind of believe her. It also has Drucker and Hana as kind of, I don't know how to explain it, but they're kind of inside the mainframe. It's kind of a bit Tron-like, but all green, and they're basically trying to get all the company secrets for themselves, and in a last-ditch effort to try and save all the company secrets, they upload all of the company secrets into Matt's brain, and he essentially becomes like a living USB key at this point, and he kind of collapses from the overload of data that he has in his mind. The only trivia I have is when inside the company's mainframe, Drucker's handle is T-Monk, and Hannah's is K-Ap-Ia. Thelonious Monk was a great jazz...
Who are they writing that for? Certainly not their demo, right? I mean, I know who these people are, but geez.
You know, they're trying to make it a bit more cultured.
They're classing up the joint.
Yeah. T-Monk is a great jazz musician, and Kapilia is a 6th century Hindu writer. In an email, R.D. Hall, who we have tweeted a lot to, he's quite cool at retweeting all our episodes. He said, I came up with those handles to further the hint at Drucker's interest in jazz. And Elle calls Matt a keyboard samurai. It is actually a moniker writer R.D. Hall gave to his friend. In an interview, R.D. said he used the name in Hana and Drucker's plot discovered to honour his friend. So yes.
I gotta make friends with writers.
I know, right? There's so many like pieces of trivia that are like in this little season batch where they're paying homage to people from the Ninth Wonders board. So yeah, there's a lot of stuff coming up, and a lot of people who we still kind of interact with, which is kind of cool.
The Easter egg. It's Kristen Bell doing one of her little shocks.
Okay. I wonder who wrote it. Was it R.D. Hall?
Yeah, it was R.D. Hall, but the art was by Tom Grummett. Oh,
Cool.
Man, I don't know how they kept cranking these things out.
I know, right? The next up, we have the end of Hana and Drucker. So at this point, we believe that Hana and Drucker are dead because, you know, obviously they were in the mainframe and the mainframe is now destroyed. It was Elle who kind of started this protocol to upload all the memories into Matt's head, and Bob comes in, calls Matt a hero, and once again gives one of those little backhanded compliments to Elle, which is nice to see that they keep that kind of consistent. But I think the main point about this last episode to say is, much like in the beginning when Matt is being used by other people because of his brain, that's essentially what's happening now. The company are only using him because of his brain and his powers, so yeah. So the only bit of trivia I have for this is right before the mainframe is destroyed, Hana says, Fear Milenge Drucker. I probably destroyed that pronunciation, but this is Hindi for We Will Meet Again Drucker. It should be noted that Hana does not use the more traditional Hindi farewell Alvida, which means goodbye. Also, of note, Fear Milenge can be alternatively spelt. And that's it, really.
He is a hard language.
Yeah.
Yeah, the story is again written by R.D. Hall, and Tom Grummett did the art. The behind the scenes Easter egg image was like Greg Grunberg and Jack Coleman giving each other that weird look, probably.
Next up, we have History of a Secret, and it's about this guy who discovers his powers of being able to levitate things. He uses it to kind of be strong, like he levitates things, holding them above his head, and he realizes that he's related to the pharaohs, and they use their powers to help create the pyramids. But when they displayed their powers, they were essentially a quote-unquote stoned for it, like people literally threw stones at them, not to death, but, just to kind of stop them from doing it. And it's
this
just...
one is cool because it's got Sanjog in it.
Yeah, and he's in quite a couple of this season kind of batch of episodes. And yeah, it's essentially what Sanjog did to Mohinder. He's giving him a path, telling him which way he's got to go, and it ends with the guy going back to his ancestors to try and do good, I guess. So yeah, I've got no trivia for this one.
Oh, this one is this one had the Easter egg painting of Mr. Muggles.
Oh.
It was quite hilarious.
Do you prefer that one? You prefer it because it's a painting?
That one was a good one because I love doggies. So it was a good one. This one was by John O'Hara and Kerry Wagner, and then the art is a return to Michael Ganal. So.
Okay.
I didn't see any Soma in this one though. It's a little graffiti tag.
Yeah. Next up, we have Past Experience, and it is it's kind of like a flashback story to Kimiko learning how to flower arrange while Hiro was learning more about warriors. And it's all about teamwork and how numbers of stuff don't matter. Like, it's got Kato telling Hiro a story about two warriors, both who want a new sword, and they both say that they've killed 37 people and each of them should be entitled to this sword. This carries on after, it's like a flashback there, and then it comes to present day where her father's died. She thinks she's going to get the company, but she ends up getting the Yamagato Fellowship, which is the big thing that came out online, like the little ARG thing. And it's all about like looking to the past to make sure we don't make the same mistakes. And it ends up with her moving the Yamagato Fellowship online because the museum that they hold is not really gathering money, and she thinks online is where it can go. Yeah, I think it's a nice little nod to the Yamagato Fellowship being online, and it kind of pushes the audience to that kind of ARG, and that kind of comes back in the next couple of episodes, that kind of ARG kind of stuff being touted in the comic books. So yeah, all I have is young Hiro wears a shirt saying Xander Black. This is a nod to Jason Badawa's friend who helped him out with some technical issues, and the entirety of Past Experience was included in Novel Approach, the Hero Collection.
Don't bother with those. I hate, it's basically like, if you're a comic book fan, it's basically just collected trades.
Yeah.
I prefer just to have all of them together. I don't really like it that way, but that's just me. This one was written by J.T. Cruel, and the art was, of course, by Jason Badawa. The behind-the-scenes image, I believe, is Matsuyoshi and George Takei at the funeral.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Next up...
War Buddies Part 7.
I know, right? It's just a continuation from War Buddies Part 6. It's Lindemann coming home from the war and just suffering from the effects of the war, like all the stories we kind of hear about. He comes back, he feels like a failure because, he's got this power and he wasn't able to save anyone. And he, quote unquote, picks up bad habits, which I'm assuming to be him drinking. And he meets up with this woman called Linda, and she tries to take his power, and he kills her. And she's got a book, and in this book, it's got Arthur Petrelli's name, and he goes to find Arthur. And that's how it ends. The trivia I have are, War Buddies is the first graphic novel to have multiple parts, not released one after another. In an interview, R.D. Hall said that Linda Tavara, who's the name of the woman that Lindemann kills, her storyline was purposely told backwards. War Buddies Part 7 was the end of that story, and the middle was Bounty Hunter, and the beginning was Moonlight Serenade, which we will be getting to.
Can we just talk about how it was 308 days later? Like,
I know, right?
Between Part 6 and 7. I'm just like, nobody cared, really. Nobody did. Nobody was clamoring for this.
And I'm wondering if people went, number 7, where was number 1 to 6? Like, it'd been so long that they'd forgotten that there was actually a 1 to 6. Jason Badal was also specifically asked to illustrate the graphic novel to have visual consistency with the other War Buddies. However, he had to decline due to other commitments.
Of course, the story is by John O'Hara. The art is by Michael Gannell. He was really filling in the patches for a lot of people.
Yeah.
And the Easter egg, I remember this one. This is of Malcolm McDowell. For some reason, this picture, like, it's he's like sitting behind a desk or something. But like for some reason, like I just gotta, like I can't get the Lunchables commercial out of my head now.
Yeah. Oh man, those commercials they're so good. Anyway, next up we have Blindsided. And it starts off with Noah having perfect vision, and he basically gets called out onto a job. There's a nice little thing where it starts off where he says he's in the car with the Haitian, and he says that he likes being with the Haitian because he doesn't have to deal with small talk, which I really quite liked. And it's them two going out to get a new evolved human who has shown up, who has delusions of grandeur. Where have we heard that before? And he's also someone very religious and thinks that his powers are an act of God. And his powers are basically he shines really brightly. Noah gets in the path of it and his eyes get blurry. He takes him down and he needs glasses, hence why he gets glasses. So yeah. The trivia I have are the last three letters of the eye chart Noah reads are HRG. He saves the Butler family. He would later use that name as an alias. Howard is named after Howard Grigsby, the father of writing assistant and graphic novels author Oliver Grigsby. And in an interview, writers Joe Pakowski and Aaron Collette confirmed that Howard Grigsby is indeed one of the Level 5 escapees. I think it started coming out around about this time that seeds of like what season 3 was going to be started to come out. So we heard about Level 5 and we started to assume that, you know, that would be where the villains were. So yeah.
Yeah.
I also remember this time because that was about the time that I started taking over this RPG board, and I was trying to make a decent storyline for like our first big thing. And I remember just trying to get every bit of information I could out of what season 3 was going to be. So every time there was like a new name that came up, I was like, okay, so they're going to be in Level 5, and I had to like create all this stuff. But yeah. Anyway, what trivia do you have?
Oh, the Easter egg was a behind-the-scenes image of Jimmy Jean-Louis and Christabel and Milo Ventimiglia. I think it's probably like a chase, if I remember right.
Okay, next up we have A Lesson in Electricity, which essentially is I probably am not going to do this justice, but it's just Joseph Priestley's accounts of Benjamin Franklin's kite experiment, and it's trying to give like a kind of historical context to the kind of heroic powers that have been, and it kind of leaves you at the end asking whether or not Benjamin Franklin had kind of super special powers of his own. So yeah, see, exactly. That's all I got from it. So I didn't do it justice at all.
Damn, Brit! Show some respect. I'm joking.
Well,
no, this was kind of an interesting thing, but they could have done without it. Me personally, like you know, when you try to tie in historical stuff, it's kind of like Abraham Lincoln, the Vampire Hunter.
Yeah.
Like it was fun, but when you think about it, it's like just leave it alone.
But this is like the second comic book in like as many in like the last 5 that have tried to tie it to some kind of historical context. And I like that
the Egyptian thing works because it's so far removed. When you try to do something that, you know, is relatively in modern terms compared to Egyptian times, I don't know. And it's Benjamin Franklin. He's kind of iconic, at least over here. So it's just like,
I kind of like that they're trying to at least delve a bit more into the mythology that isn't in the TV show. The only pieces of trivia I have are in real life history. Joseph Priestley published The History and Present State of Electricity in 1767, including information on Benjamin Franklin's kite experiment. The introduction to the novel originally named Joseph Priestley as John Priestley. The error in the first name was later fixed, and the last name was still misspelled. So yeah.
Sometimes you just gotta slow clap it out.
I know, right? Where's the kids? Where's Monty Petrelli with that slow clap? Anyway.
The story was by David Wool, and then the art continues to be by Michael Gannell. The behind-the-scenes image for the Easter egg was Ollie Lauder and Noah Gray Cabby. probably the hug. I think it was the hug when they finally reunite.
Okay. Fair enough. Next up, we have, well, we're just burning through these. Next up, we have Pieces of Me. It's...
Britney Spears?
Yeah, it is. It's Britney Spears has a special power to do nothing of any consequence in real life. Anyway, no, it's about a guy. He has a recurring dream, and he's essentially having an existential crisis. He's dealing with the death of someone, and once again, Sanjog is there to help him move forward with life, and that's basically what happens at the end of the comic. He learns to deal with the death of this person and live his life.
I like how they kind of talk about Freud and how the guy's like, I think Freud's an idiot.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, sacrilege! The psychoanalysts are gonna roll over in their grave.
I don't think the psychoanalysts were reading these graphic novels, but anyway, yeah.
You'd be surprised the kind of people that are into heroes, though. Honestly.
Fair enough. I think his name was Ryan Covington. Yes, because in the trivia, it has, in February 2008, a user named Ryan C submitted a dream to the activatingevolution.org's dream study. In Robert Atkins' original art, the first panel of page 4 showed Ryan Covington looking at a small child in the reflection. However, the child was removed during the colouring process. It should be noted that the original dream submission of activatingevolution.org, Ryan follows the cries of a child into the castle. When Ryan sees the child in the mirror and goes to pick him up, the child disappears and another figure appears. In the graphic novel version of the dream, Ryan does not follow the cries of a child, but rather the voice of someone calling his name. Robert Atkins said there was supposed to be a baby in the background playing with a chess set. I didn't know what that meant in the script and thought it was a little creepy, but in the final version they took it out. It helped streamline the story there, I think. And he finally mentioned... Robert Atkins mentioned that Pieces of Me was based on a dream submission because of the writer's strike. So yes.
I see.
What's
nice
this writer's
little
strike?
sneaky way around that.
I know, right?
This one is a behind-the-scenes image of Zachary Quinto and Hayden Panettiere. I believe it's him at the door from episode 301.
Next up, we have On the Lam, and this is what I was talking about, where they were trying to push people towards the ARGs, or at least look at the past ARGs, and it's basically about a character named Brian, who was part of, I think it was the Corinthian Hotel, or the Hana kind of ARG of trying to get you to stop the election vote from season 1, and it's about this guy Brian, and he's gone into hiding ever since Lindemann died, thinking that they were going to kind of start chasing him, and it's just him like living on the lam, and he turns whistleblower in the end of it, starts up a website called brianundaunted.com, and I think they were trying to push people towards that to kind of get more content out there whilst the writer's strike was out. I've got no trivia for that, so.
Okay. Stories by J.T. Kroll. We had a new artist, Eric Nugent, and it's like an in-character, quote-unquote, image of Kelly Linderman, Brian, and Walter's video conference.
Okay.
Yeah, they were getting like really creative with this stuff at that point.
Well, they had to. Next up, we have Bounty Hunter, and this is about Linda Tavara again, and she's just been fired from her job as a bounty hunter, but then she gets a new job for someone who just tells her that they've got a list of people and you need to get them, and she ends up giving 2 back and taking 1 for herself, and she's taking their powers at this point. The woman who's her employer finds out. Linda kills her and then moves on to get Lindemann. So that's obviously the middle part of the Linda Tavara story. The trivia I've got is it takes place in 1972 when Centennial Airport was still called Arapahoe County Airport. The airport opened in May 1967 and was renamed to its current name in 1984. So yes.
One had a behind-the-scenes image of Nate Goodman and Adrian Pasdar. This was written by R.D. Hall. The art was by Robert Atkins.
Cool.
You know what would be cool?
What?
This just kind of made me think of it. If Molly Walker turned into a bounty hunter because she could find any.
Oh man, yeah.
That make her job. Somebody needs to write a fic for that. I don't feel like doing it.
Next up, we have Different and the Same, and this is about a character named Piper. She can't sleep, and Once again, our main man Sangog comes in and opens her eyes to what actually happened. Basically, in her dream, she's having a recurring dream that she was abducted by aliens, and Sangjog makes her realize that she wasn't, and it's her memories coming back from the Haitian having taken them, and she basically was taken by the company and bagged and tagged, and she has the power of like super stretchy skin like Mr. Fantastic. So yes, the only piece of trivia I have is in the Volume 2 Heroes hardcover collection from DC Wildstorm. This chapter is retitled Psychic Bounds. So yes.
Oh, okay. Again, we see JT Kroll return, Michael Goodell just burning through this.
Yep.
He's like, he must have a contract. He's like, I just got to get done with this. We have a behind-the-scenes image of Jimmy Jean-Louis as the Haitian doing his classic Batman out of nowhere kind of thing.
Next up, we have Moonlight Serenade, which is the beginnings of Linda Tavara. It starts off with her in her youth, and her parents are scared of her because she has boxes of things which she has killed. We realise that her power is she can see the auras of people around her, and she absorbs the auras, and she's been absorbing auras of like squirrels and stuff like that, and she basically goes out and starts trying to take the auras of people, but she sees a woman who has a really bright aura, and we realise that it is someone with powers. Her name is Ida Mae Walker,
Mm-hmm.
which comes up later that Molly Walker's great-grandmother.
That's what you think it is.
Grandmother, yeah, something like that. So yeah, it basically ends with Linda taking Ida's powers and killing her. We also realise that when she takes the auras of people with powers, she ends up grabbing their powers for a little bit at least. The only trivia I have for this is on page 6, the word quiet is misspelled as quite. And Moonlight Serenade is the
Very
name.
British.
I know, right? The Moonlight Serenade is the name of one of Glenn Miller's most famous compositions, recorded in 1939.
So we had R.D. Hall writing, Jason Bedauer as the artist, and we had the Easter egg of Zachary Quinto, Jack Coleman, and Colby French. It was like behind the scenes images. They were actually looking really chummy, quite cute.
Fair enough. Okay, so I think this is where it starts to get interesting, because this is where all the season starts to kind of link together. It doesn't seem like it, but looking back in hindsight, which is the name of one of the episodes, you kind of see how these episodes were done in the way that they were done, and they all kind of link towards the end. But anyway, so we'll start off with Donna's Big Date Part 1. Donna Dunlap is on a date, and she's phoned by someone called Eavesdropper and told to leave because the person is on the date with her is actually setting a trap for her. We also find out that Donna has a power, but she never really thought anything about it. Her power is telescopic vision, so she just thought she had really good eyesight. When she goes back to her apartment, she sees that someone is watching her, the person on the date is watching her from half a block away, and she takes a gun out, which she was left by Eavesdropper, and shoots him, and we think he's dead, and she's then taken in by Elle into the company. Yes, the only trivia I have is the phone dialogue between Eavesdropper, and Donna was published on the Ninth Wonders board, and in some panels, Elle is wearing earrings, in others, she is not. So we'll move on to part 2, and this is set in season 2, just after HRG was brought back to life, because Donna is sitting next to Noah, and he is telling her that she should get out if she gets the chance. The company come to take her out and realise that she's been next to HRG and erase her memory and get her again the next day. But little do they know that Eavesdropper has sent her footage of what happened to her, and she joins his cause. The only trivia I have about this is part 1 of Donna's Big Date ended by announcing that the next novel would be called Orientation Day. However, this novel's subtitle is Replay. So yes, there is obviously something that got missed out in between.
We see Chuck Kim, after a very long absence, come back to write a story for the graphic novels. The art and colors are done by Peter Steigerwald. And then the behind the scenes Easter egg thing was of Hayden Panettiere not in a cheerleader's uniform.
What?
I know, right?
Next up, we have career choices. And this starts off with Donna Dunlap. She is taken off the active duty, and we get introduced to other minor little characters such as Thompson Jr., who is obviously Mr. Thompson's kid, and Gail, I think that's how you pronounce it, who is essentially the day-to-day runnings of the company. She's taken off active duty and she's trying to find out why. So she goes to like the hidden file. She goes to like the files, finds Thompson Jr. there, and he realizes why she's been taken off. She's been taken off because there is in her file there is a painting, one of the Mendez paintings, and it shows her dying. So yes, bit of trivia I have is this is the first normally numbered graphic novel and the third of all graphic novels that doesn't to not contain an Easter egg. A link was retroactively added weeks later.
Yeah, and I know why, because there's a picture of Maya. I mean, I think Danaya Ramirez is beautiful and everything,
Yes.
but Maya is so damn annoying that it just taints everything. I can't even watch Mistresses.
That's kind of the way I feel about Claire as well now. Like, I like Hayden
Panettiere.
Panettiere. She's so great. But her as a character, I just can't. But that's to do with my...
Oh, she's so great on Nashville, though. Like, I was really blown away. Like, I had no idea.
Fair enough. Next up, we have Trust Issues, which is another two-parter. I'm trusting that they were both done by the same people and written by the same people.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay, so I'll go into it. This kind of starts goes more into the eavesdropper and kind of pitting people against each other. Part 1 has Thompson Jr. tailing his own partner, thinking that he is killing humans. And in this issue, we find out that there is a mole somewhere in the company, and it's a and it's kind of like a conspiracy of, you know, they think that eavesdropper is making them kill their own kind of people. So yeah, the artist rendering in the Easter egg picture of this graphic novel is used as the assignment tracker file of Donna as her primary picture, and a giant drum at Borneo Industries has certain kind of password written on it, and you can use that to see Leonard Cushing's assignment tracker file at primatechpaper.com. This was about the time that they started really pushing the primatechpaper.com and being able to find assignment trackers where you would get like a breakdown of specials and see their kind of powers and like what kind of range they were in. It was really kind of cool because I started like stealing them for myself and making my own up for my own characters on my RPG at the time. So yeah, I really like that kind of stuff. Part 2 is the whole thing is Donna trying to hide the fact that she's the mole, or at least she thinks she's the mole, and she wants to get out of what this thing that her and eavesdropper has dropped her in the middle of. But he's not letting her go. She sees the game that eavesdropper is playing and starts to want to do things her way and tries to push eavesdropper into doing things how she wants to. But we don't really know about the rest of that. So yes, there's no trivia for that.
Yeah, it's just the Easter egg for this is artist rendering of Donna.
Yeah.
And then the other one, it's the image of Steven Kowalski and Sano. And I think it's when Mohinder is wanting to realize that the company might be better alternative than working with HRG.
Okay. Next up, we have another two-parter called Faces. Part 1 has us meet Penny, who is not satisfied with the way she looks.
Sounds familiar.
They do a really good job of making her look really weird. But she is really good at her job, and she tried... basically, it's one of us, one of them. She's a human, and her mother is her partner, and her mother has the power to change people's appearances, and she tries to... This episode kind of has her trying to be her own woman and get away from her mother and be on her own or be with someone else, but she can't. They're a team, so they have to stay together. The trivia I have is Penny's opening line, "My name is Logan, Penny Logan, and I'm the best at what I do," is a reference to Wolverine's famous catchphrase, "I'm the best there is at what I do." Wolverine's civilian name is Logan. Thompson Jr. calls Connie tells Connie that she wouldn't mind being stranded on MILF Island with her. Connie is the name of Penny's mother. MILF Island is a title of an episode of NBC's 30 Rock and the title of the reality show spoof featured on 30 Rock. And once again, we get another password for Connie Logan's assignment tracker at primatechpaper.com. Part 2, it continues on from the end of part 1, which has Penny sleeping with Thompson Jr., but whilst looking like a prettier woman. And it's a really weird, there's a really funny bit where it kind of gets into lad culture, and Thompson's getting bro-fisted. That sounds really weird saying it like that, but he's
yeah, that sounds like a flashback term.
He's fist bumping another Primatech employee because he slept with a hottie the night before. The episode is just essentially about Connie, Penny's mother, feeling underappreciated and using her powers to teach her daughter a lesson. It ends up with Penny thinking that she's in a relationship with Thompson Jr., but it isn't. He's just saying how cool it would be for her to look like someone different every night. So once again, she feels underappreciated. The trivia I have are, when the novel was released, the Connie's line in the last panel of page 3 originally read, "Hoping you can meet him back at her place for a quickie. This was a mistake and was later fixed to simply read, hoping you can meet him back at her place for a quickie." And in a forum post, writer Mark Sable said that Faces was originally meant to be a 3-part story.
The story was by Mark Sable and the art was by Michael Gunnell. And then, of course, the behind-the-scenes image, Easter egg thingy, is of Kristen Rose giving her classic bitch of death, bitch of doom look. Yeah. Love it.
Was it around about this time that they had said that Christine Rose had been upped to series regular?
I believe so.
Yes. Okay.
It's like the best news.
I know, right? Next up, we have Root and Branch, which is a 3-parter. The first up we have, it starts off with a 3-pronged attack to grab these rogue duplicates. Basically, there's a character called Julian Dumont who has the power of cloning, and they believe that they have the Root, who is the original, and they're trying to get his rogue duplicates. And two of them get apprehended, and one of them doesn't. And he says that he's still out there, but the third, or number 3, is actually dead. And this, basically, that's how it ends. So the trivia I have is the novel originally showed upon publication that this was part 1 of 2. It was updated later that same day to display 1 of 3. Jason Badawa said there are references to 5 Sami members in the graphic novel, namely the bar Nat and New Hotel is named after Natalie Wells and New Scene. A man at the bar is wearing a t-shirt that says The Mighty Truck, which is a reference to Ninth Wonder's moderator, Mighty Truck. Signs at the bar say Ash Rules, a reference to Ash 22. And tonight, Lee Ann and the S Army, a reference to Lee Ann and the Sami. So yes, Sami was a term for Siler Army, for those who
that don't know. I envy you if you don't know. Because, like, I just for the life of me, like, I mean, dude, the next 2 seasons are brutal for me because of the interest in Siler that they take that makes no sense only because viewership demanded it.
See, I didn't, I wasn't into the Ninth Wonders kind of boards at this time. I don't think I ever did. I only went over to the Ninth Wonders boards to try and drum up support for, like, my RPG. So I never really frequented it, which I kind of...
Ninth Wonders is now, like, just a Tumblr, though.
Yeah.
Like, that's so defective. I mean, good for them. The artwork is great and stuff, but, like, it's Tumblr.
Next up, we have part 2. They basically starts off comparing Julian Dumont to a tree. You've got roots and you've got branches. And the root is the original. We meet a character called Sabine who knows that Julian is lying. And Sabine is brought into Eavesdropper's plan. She confronts the quote-unquote root. And we find out that she is in love with Julian, or at least one of the clones. And in another hashtag rapey kind of thing, we find out that she has slept unknowingly with numerous of the clones, even though he said it wasn't his idea. And it just ends with Sabine trying to find the original Julian Dumont.
You know what that's a reference to, don't
No?
you? The Watchmen, where
Okay. Ah.
remember she got all mad. He's trying to get his work done. He's like, "Here, woman, have some." She gets all mad.
Okay, that's cool. In the introduction of the novel, the word rogue is misspelt rouge, which is a mistake I make plenty of times.
Like, spell check, dude.
I know, right?
Come on.
No, but with spell check, it would still keep rogue as rouge because they're both correctly spelt right.
Like, mine does context and subtext checks. I mean, come on. Their copy editor needs to be fired at this point.
Next up, the Nissan that Sabine drives has a license plate, and obviously that is a password to get Julian Dumont's assignment tracker. The towels at the hotel are embroidered with the monogram RGS. This is Jason Badauer's way of saying thank you to Heroes Wiki administrator Ryan Gibson Stewart, who helped with several references for the Roots and Branch series. Next up, we have part 3. The only thing I have in my notes about this is escape. So, yeah.
Yeah, it's subtitled Extraction. This one is, the story is by Zach Crayley and Oliver Grigsby. The art was by Jason Badauer, of course. And this Easter egg is pretty cool because it was like a scene from Company Man with Claude Rains and Mr. Bennett on the Texas bridge. But, like, I don't know, it looked different than what we actually saw.
Okay. The only bit of trivia I have for this is Jason Badauer added at least 2 shout-outs to the fans in this novel, namely the copy of The Tale of Two Cities read by Noah is published by Shendai Classics, and the SUV driven by Sabine is branded as a Willow. These are shout-outs to Sami member Shendai and freelance writer graphic artist Willem Paulson.
Oh, we know Willow.
Shendai as well. She always tweets out for stuff, but yeah, that's pretty cool. Next up, we have Berlin, which gives us another level 5 villain called The German, or just The German. Basically, during this, we start to realise that this eavesdropper kind of character is starting to separate the company and putting humans on one side and specials on the other. Gale, who is the quote-unquote the boss, isn't letting any of the specials in on the know about eavesdropper, and even though, you know, he's kind of engaged to one, Bianca. And the episode is they're scouting to try and find the German, but the German has been given a different bank to go rob, or at least a different mission by what we later find out is eavesdropper. The only trivia I've got for this is Bianca swims in the Wannsee Lakes. The Wannsee is actually, that sounds really weird, I've probably pronounced that really wrong, but the Wannsee is actually a linked pair of lakes adjoining a locality in southwestern Berlin. And the second episode for Berlin brings into question whether Bianca is the mole and ends with the German getting captured.
Yeah, the story for both parts were written by Christopher Zada, and the art was by newcomer Aletha Martinez. Now, the funny thing about Christopher Zada, he was like a Raiders assistant on Crossing Jordan, which is Tim Curry's like first kind of endeavor in TV. That's really great. You should watch it if you can, although the original music is gone. Actually, one of the causes of the writer's strike, but anyway. Yeah, so he was really funny, and he had a minor in German, which is why we're kind of based in Berlin. He thought it'd be cool to put some of that to use.
Cool. Next up, we have a 3-parter called The Kill Squad. I kind of like The Kill Squad. Part 1 starts off with the story of Sean Fallon, who is part of a support team for all the company. He's basically a former soldier who's been loaned into the private sector, and it just has him spending time, or at least flashing back to times that he spent with Bob, Lindemann, HRG, Eden, and he also had a lover in Candice. The only trivia I have for this is writer Harrison Wilcox confirmed in a 9th Wonder post that 2 of the team members have already appeared in episodes of the show, and it is widely believed by the fans that Fallon's team was the so-called Kill Squad until the 3rd graphic novel where the actual Kill Squad was formed. So yeah. Part 2 has Sean dealing with a human who has the power of like vegetation, basically. He deals with him. His name's Lewis, and it also shows at the end of it that he has a vendetta against Sylar, and I'm guessing it's probably because he killed Candice. Part 3 starts off with Sean going into a meeting with Bob. He gets carte blanche to make his own team. He makes it known that he doesn't want to work with specials and that his team is just going to be comprised of humans. So he goes and starts picking up more people. We first get Lloyd Collins, who is one of the sheriffs who knew Charlie, and then he recruits Ted Sprague's brother-in-law, who is basically, his wife's brother, and Tom Drake, who was the cockroach exterminator from season 1, who pulled a gun on Mohinder. He pulls this team together, and they take Lewis, who was the guy from the previous episode, and Paulette Hawkins to a massive hole in the ground. Basically, they want to use Lewis to cover up this hole so that no one kind of knows about specials, because a special caused this massive hole in the ground. They take Paulette because she has the power of augmentation, and they basically put Lewis into the middle of this crater. She uses her powers, he creates trees and kind of fills in the hole, and at the end of it they kill Paulette, and it kind of makes it known that they're not really fans of specials, none of them. The only trivia I have for this one is the original version of the novel displayed Tom Drake in an upstate New York bar and Joseph Gallagher in Cody, Wyoming.
Hey, do you know that Paulette Hawkins was basically the original Crimson Lightning?
What? What's that?
Think about it, because she had, Ando.
Yes, I was thinking
His
about
powers,
that, yeah.
Remember?
Yes. Oh,
So funny.
I forgot about Crimson Lightning.
So dangerous, but yet ladylike. Hero throwing just shade. Yeah, as you guys can tell, I'm in season 4 of my rewatch here.
Next up, we're going to go kind of off-piste and just discuss quickly the Going Postal webisode, because the next graphic novel was the Going Postal graphic novel, which ties into this. So the webisode starts off with this character, Echo, running away from something, and we think he's running away from, this being Heroes, we think he's running away from the company, and we later find out he is literally just running away from a dog, because he's a postman. And they waste little to no time and going straight into the crux of the story. Basically, he uses his power to make this dog run away, and an agent turns up with one of them, who is a constrictor who has the power to hug you to death. They go to bag and tag him, he gets away, the constrictor is still alive and shoots his human partner, and that's how the episode ends. The trivia I have is, in the press release of the NBCUMV.com, the first part of Going Postal was called Manhunt. The second...
But it's later titled to A Nifty
Yes,
Trick, right?
I believe so, yes. Next is part 2.
The house.
Yes. So part 2 has Echo going home to his girlfriend to try and go on the run, but he realizes that the constrictor is there. He sees that the constrictor is hugging his girlfriend, covering her ears, so he uses his power to knock him out. She is fine. He then kills the constrictor. That's the thing about the graphic novels and the webisodes. They really didn't give names to some people, and you just end up having to call people the constrictor or sound absorption agent, stuff like that. That's something I really hated when I was creating this stuff for my RPG. But yeah, anyway, it ends with the door knocking and him sending his girlfriend away. Don't you think it's really funny how they call him Echo and he has the power of screaming?
Let's talk.
Yes.
This is so funny.
Yes. Part 3 starts with Echo opening the door, getting his girlfriend to run, and he says he'll meet her somewhere. So he fights off the people who are trying to capture him, and then it cuts to 13 weeks later, and it has him in level 5, and you hear the sounds of footsteps, and camera turns, and it's Angela Petrelli, and she basically tells him that he's there to stay, and he's got a gag in his mouth. That's how Going Postal ends.
Yep.
And then we'll go on to Going Postal, the graphic novel, and it basically is just a continuation of the 13 weeks, and it starts with him trying to find his girlfriend, but he knows that she's being watched, so he sends her notes, or musical notes, that will let her know that he's around. It's really weird. They go more in depth into his powers in that graphic novel. It ends with him going to a lake house where he believes his girlfriend will be, and he kisses her, and then he realizes it isn't his girlfriend, and I'm assuming it's L because she has the power of electricity, and he uses the electrical force or something to changes it into sound waves. It's kind of like a bishop kind of absorption and redistribution of power type thing, and he ends up getting taken down by an agent who can absorb sound, which has rendered him deaf. So yes.
It was L, by
Yes.
the way. So the story was by Yul Cass, and then the art was by Marcus too. Like, we haven't seen Marcus too in a while, I guess, because he said that he didn't watch it. Just like, well, now you have to watch this. The behind-the-scenes Easter egg was of Jack Coleman and Jimmy, Jean-Louis, and Nora Zatner, aka Eden.
Oh, Eden. Next up, we have another two-parter called Our Blessed Lady of Acceleration. It's essentially an intro into Daphne, who would be a character in season 3.
Boo!
What?
I hate that.
Oh my, I loved.
She was almost as bad as Janice.
Oh no, we're not gonna get along.
Oh yeah, we're definitely not.
So basically, it's much like a Hana kind of storyline where they're going to introduce a character in the graphic novels and then bring her in to the series, but she gets a much bigger role. This issue kind of gives her a morally grey kind of part, like side to herself. Like she uses her superpowers of super speed to steal from people, but also at the same time she steals stuff and returns it to like its country of origin. The company take down her employers, but she gets given a new mission by his employers, who we would later, or if you read into it, it kind of is a character who will be in season 3. So yes, in the
very, very limited.
yes, very, 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 very limited. In the beginning of the novel, Daphne carries a box of shoes called Sotellos, named for Beth Sotello, the colorist of the novel, and the title of the novel is in reference to a line from the Blues Brothers. Part 2 basically has Daphne at a shipping yard trying to take something from Yamagato Industries. She ends up in a shipping container, and as she turns around, there is someone being chased, which is Peter being chased by the Haitian, and she realizes that she's not going to get what she needs from the shipping yard, so she ends up using a Yamagato Industries guy as an informant, and he believes that he's going to be in charge of Yamagato Industries when Kato dies. He eventually figures out that he's not, and he feels double-crossed, so he helps her and finds a time that a safe is going to be opened, which would be the next time we see her in season 3. Okay, so the trivia I have is the original version of this portion of Our Lady of Blessed Acceleration graphic novel incorrectly displays Zach Crawley as the author. Also, the surveillance video Daphne watches was originally displayed using faded English text. Both corrections were published on October 13th, 2008. Daphne watches a surveillance feed. She hears Hero say something in Japanese. It roughly translates to "My destiny, your destiny, Ando, is inside that safe." On the last page of the graphic novel, the word surveilling is incorrectly spelled. The graphic novel explains why the shipping container Peter was put into 4 months ago was empty, and Peter is incorrectly shown wearing a jacket despite him being shirtless in the episode.
Yeah, anyway, the story was by T.J. Doyle, the art was by Michael Goodell. The Easter egg was a behind-the-scenes image of Ali Larder, and, I don't know, it's just weird.
Why is it weird?
I don't know, you know how I feel about that, the shenanigans they pulled to keep Ali Larder around. So it's just, oh my god, I just remember thinking, oh my god, she's still there! Ugh!
Okay, next up we have Hindsight, which starts with Donna Dunlap being interrogated, and it kind of pushes more of the aspect of the humans versus specials. It even ends with 3 humans on one side, 3 specials on the other, and they're about to go to town on each other in a fight kind of way. The only trivia I have is the doorway has another password written on it, and that is for Bianca Carina's assignment tracker on Primatech paper.
The story was by Oliver Grigsby, the art was by Olitha Martinez. The Easter egg is an in-character image of Ivan Spector and Noah Bennett from The Line. This was a good one.
Next up we have Foresight. The fight is stopped by Thompson and Donna join up together to go and find Eavesdropper. And so we're kind of pushing to the final stretch here, finding out who Eavesdropper is. I have no trivia for that.
Okay, so this is the 100th issue of the graphic novels. The story was by Zach Crayley. The art was by Alita Martinez. The Easter egg is a behind-the-scenes image of Greg Gernberg on the set of the Odessa Sheriff's Department, a.k.a. where what happened to Nathan happened.
Yeah. Okay, so we'll move on to Into the Wild, which is the final 3-part episode of this kind of season of graphic novels. Part 1 starts off with us finding out that Connie Logan and a clone Julian Dumont are actually eavesdropper, and it's it's not just clone, he's got loads of clones, so he has a veritable army with him. Their plan is destroying the company, and there will be a war coming. We find out at the end that Connie and Julian are actually married. This is the first time that any character ascribes a gender to eavesdropper. Sabine says, I want to talk to him twice. Interestingly enough, this is also the first time that eavesdropper identity is revealed. Sabine learns firsthand that Eves is not just a him, but a collective them. We move on to part 2, and this point I started thinking about stuff because obviously Connie and Julian both have powers, but they also have Penny, who isn't a special, which kind of is weird because, you know, sometimes... But yeah, the same thing kind of happened with Kato and Kimiko. But this gives us a backstory to eavesdropper, and basically Connie and Julian got married. They joined the company. She was told that he had died, and she eventually, you know, she always had to deal with him being around because of the clones. She finds out that he's alive, finds him and protects him. And at the end, we think that Donna has turned, and at the same time, Gale is trying to secure a package, which is with them. So yeah. The trivia I have for that is Jason Badawa included a number of shout-outs in this graphic novel. He reprised the Shendi Classics books for Root and Branch Part 3, a nod to Sami member Shendi, with the book that Connie Logan reads called Rosian, referring to the Ninth Wonders user hero, who is also called Rosian, as well as company agent at eavesdropper cabin is named Wise. This is the screen name sometimes used by Ninth Wonders poster.
Be
Hero to All. There we go. And also, there's like little nods to like the assignment tracker map, which is a big thing. On the assignment tracker map, they had names of like agents and what kind of powers they had and who they were paired with, and you kind of get your first shot of people from that. So like Burke Donahue, there's another one called Perez, and there's loads of them that kind of get name checked in the next couple of episodes. So yes, part 3 shows us that Donna hadn't turned, it was actually Penny Logan who was the one who turned on Thompson. The kill squad show up and end up doing what they do best and killing people. Thompson realizes that he loves Donna, or that he never really thought about her in that way, when he sees that she is on a bridge tied up to lots of bombs. She's trapped. She's basically not going to get up. He tries to release her, but her feet have been like nailed to like a plank of wood or something like that. She calls him Eric and pushes him off the bridge because it's about to explode. And at the beginning of this kind of season, it starts with Donna Dunlap dying, and we get the image of that replayed, and Gale ends up getting the package, and you think the package has always been Julian Dumont or the original Root, but it's not. It's actually Sabine, who is pregnant with Julian's baby. So yes, and the baby will have powers. That's what they know. So yes, the trivia I have for this is Penny's final face was chosen by the fans. At NBC.com, fans could slide parts around to create their own face. Then fans voted on which face they would like Penny to have. And also later I would find out, well, this is me personally, but Thompson Jr. was named Eric, which I'm assuming was a nod to Eric Roberts, who played Thompson. And also, I also found out that Sabine's child would eventually have the power to clone, but also each clone would have like their own power. So yeah, that's why they wanted.
That'd have been something cool to actually incorporate into this new.
Oh yeah, but at the same time, talk about overpowered overload. Come on.
Oh, okay. So the story is by Jim Martin. The art was by Jason Badawa, and the Easter egg for this is actually a cast and crew photo from the season 3 premiere party that was in the Edison Lounge in Los Angeles, California.
And we've got to the end. Now we can move to season 3.
Okay.
Yay.
Well, no, let's talk about season 2 just
Okay,
really
then.
quickly. The biggest thing that really affected season 2, they had a whole huge plan for season 2. It was going to be 30
Yes.
episodes split into like 3 different volumes. We had like a Hero's Origin was going to be, they were going to try to make it 12, but then like because of that big, huge break they took in season 1, the viewership just like decimated it.
So they were basically
they were trying to fix
They
that.
were basically going to use the mid-season break to do Heroes Origins, weren't they? Yeah.
Yeah, like I said, it was postponed because of the decline in viewership and eventually canceled because of the strike. It was messed up. The strike lasted, well, how long did the strike
Oh, it lasted for a long time.
It started on November 5th, 2007 and ended on February 12th, 2008.
And just destroyed a lot of TV programs, not just Heroes.
Especially serialized sci-fi based shows. I know Lost really kind of sort of suffered from it, but it came out stronger, whereas Heroes kind of
just didn't know.
So yeah, I've always been bummed about that. Always been curious about what could have been. Although I wasn't really interested in Exodus at all. Any of the plans.
What plans did they have for Exodus? Do you remember?
It was remember because they talked about it in the graphic novels where it was going to be like people getting like the disease. Because initially that's how it was gonna. Nathan was going to be the first guy to get the virus and all that stuff. I'm just kind of glad they didn't actually go.
And what's her name was going to be the cure, wasn't she? Maya. There was a bigger plan. Was Maya was going to be the cure or the reason for the cure being made because of her powers.
Well, she kind of sort of was. They kind of were still going down that, and then they were like, nope, back up. We need to put Matt and Mohinder and Maya back together. The fans demanded.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, this was brutal though. I've always been really bummed out about season 2 because I actually like most of season 2. It's better than a lot of season 3 for me personally, just because it's this drastic kind of shift in character perspective, and I don't care for the character POV that we're gonna get. So.
Fair enough.
So yeah, what would you give season 2 overall as a
season 2 overall? You know what? I really thought season 2 was kind of when I first watched it, I was kind of disappointed. And I think that kind of resentment has kind of grown over the years of not having watched it. But watching it back, I actually quite appreciated it. And I still have a lot of fond memories of season 2 because that part in between season 2 and season 3 was where I started to discover Heroes a lot more and started going more in depth into the graphic novels and the ARGs and stuff like that. So yeah, I actually, and doing this rewatch, I actually quite enjoyed it. So I would say, I'm going to have to give it a middling kind of B- C+, more C+, but kind of on the verge of getting there towards a B-, even though there's a couple of things that I have issues with. Some of the character changes that they did, Mohinder, came out strong in season 2. I didn't have much love for Adam until later on in the series. So yeah, it's just, but then it just got rushed towards the end, so I couldn't give it as much as I wanted to. But what about you?
I definitely give this a solid B for what they did with what they had. I'm always going to be bitter about the character of Victoria Pratt. What a waste. Shame. But it is what it is. But I thought they did really great with what they had. Outside of the Herreras, it really is just Maya, because Alejandro really literally only got maybe 2 lines, 3 lines.
Exactly.
But they could have been so much more. And at the end of the day, Maya was just Siler was Maya's honey trap, and it's Siler's not even that hot with his uncle arms, his thick, bushy wolf eyebrows. Can't believe this. So yeah, it's just a couple things, but overall, the story really flowed. It was fast paced. There was better action, even though they still closed the door on a lot of it. But yeah, a lot of cool, interesting interactions that, they either expanded upon or made new connections for. So, and it continues into season 3 with that. So I think that's one of the best strengths of season 2 for me personally. And the Claire and HRG coming together, falling apart, that continues through the whole series. But I like their little small moments that they had in this one quite a lot. So
cool.
Okay, so it looks like it's time for shameless plugs and self-promotion. I'm gonna start with me. So you can find me on Twitter at Lilith Hellfire. You can find me on Tumblr. It's lilithhellfire.tumblr.com. And if you are into comic books or pop culture, please be sure to check out my blog, littlepopculturevulture.blogspot.com. If you are still using iTunes, which I know a lot of you guys aren't, please be sure to head over there, rate, review, and subscribe. And remember, please download the episodes because streaming does not count towards the algorithm. And while you're there, please be sure to type in Southgate Media Group to see a listing of the hot and trending episodes and shows that our network currently has. Yep. And then you can go to www.southgatemediagroup.com to see the full 85 plus listings of podcasts, find out information about your hosts, as well as a few weekly blogs that they produce. My favorite is True Believer. And no, I'm not saying that just because it is Rob's comedy blog. I'm not a bum, I swear.
You can email the podcast with any thoughts on our episodes or any questions for us, primatechfiles@gmail.com. As Lilith said, you can find us on iTunes, but you can also find us on Stitcher. Just search the word Primatech Files. You can also find us on Libsyn. Just bookmark primatechfiles.libsyn.com or fave Southgate Media Group on SoundCloud. Those are all the ways that you can listen to our beautiful podcast. You can also find us on Tumblr, Facebook, Clamour, or YouTube. Just search the word Primatech Files, and also Twitter at Primatech Files. You can find me at quanmagazine.com, thepeoplesmovies.com, or tvbinges.com for all your TV binge watching needs and to create your own TV binge. You can also finally find me on Twitter, RickyJDS. That's RICKYJDIAZ, or Z if you are American. Lilith, go on, hit him with it.
Oh, come on, dude. Right, you did so good for this one. Come on.
Download the podcast, save the world.